Hello everyone, Reed Henners of Valor Ridge
and Patriot Nurse.
In today's video we're going to talk about our current situation in the United States of America because it's September 11th, 2015 and it's 14 years ago and it literally seems just like yesterday that it happened. We've been doing a lot of thinking today. I woke up, it was the first thing on my mind was that it was September 11th and how far things have come in the last 14 years. A lot has changed. And we started talking amongst ourselves this morning, and I said, well, man, there's a lot of stuff that's been going on.
There's a lot that's been going on. There's a lot of news. There's a lot of things that are, a lot of pieces that are moving right now. A lot of things that are scheduled to happen in the next few weeks. And it kind of got us into a little mode of reflection here, so we wanted to talk about some of the current events with you guys and ask the question.
Are things getting better or worse in this country? Have things gotten better or worse lately, or within the past decade, or within the last 50 years? I want you to ask that question. Have things gotten better or worse overall? Not your little pet issue, but overall for the American people. Do we have more freedom or less? And I want you to ask that question. It's kind of a thing for reflection. I mean, I don't know how anybody with a sane mind, literally anybody with a sane, reflective mind, could look back and say, oh, we're better off. We're better off as a nation. We're better off. Boy, our government's really listening to us, man. Really, really respecting our wishes and our desires, and really respects the Constitution and its limitations. Just think about that.
Healthcare is in shambles. We have borders that are not
Well, that
secure.
can't be. It's affordable for everybody now.
Oh, absolutely. I know mine tripled.
Yeah, I know I lost mine. Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate that. But I'll tell you something, it's pretty crazy. So, in the cycle of history, in all the cycles of history, rising, falling, ebbs and flows, high tide, low tide, all those cycles of history, where's the United States at right now? Are we a rising tide or are we an ebbing tide? And I don't know. What do you think?
I don't think that you could look at the situation objectively and say anything other than we're in a major decline.
Okay. Are you talking about a decline economically? Are you talking about a decline morally? Are you talking about a decline?
In every facet, I see that we have become a far cry. Like, I posted this up on my Facebook the other day. I hear people say, oh, the Founding Fathers would be rolling in their graves. No, they'd be retching their guts out at what we've become.
Yeah. So before you guys and gals out there are saying, well, we need to return, to the founding principle of this country and our Constitution. Yeah, I definitely agree with you, but what are our founding principles? And I want you to think about this, and I want you to sit down and really reflect inwardly about what our founding principles are, and furthermore, what kind of men overall were our founding fathers? Were they men that said, were these guys leaders and men that said, you know what? We're going to do whatever we want to, and we're not going to follow any kind of moral standard? Or were these people that opened the Constitutional Convention with prayer? Were these people that in their own personal writings and in the writings of every legal document you can see that they ask for the hand of providence in all of their endeavors? I want you to answer that question. All you intellectuals out there that are these brilliant scholars, you tend to ignore that. You tend to ignore the fact that people that gave every ounce of their time to this country, people like John Adams, who said our Constitution is made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the purposes of any other. Think about that. Think about the fact that guys like Noah Webster openly professed it. And I love out there and like amateur guys will be like, oh, the founding fathers were deists and atheists. Well, first of all, you're absolutely almost 100% false, inaccurately wrong. Most of them had a standard by which they lived their lives. Most of them were practicing people that followed scriptures daily. When George Washington was sworn in, he put his left hand on the Bible and added, "So help me God," to his inaugural oath. He's the one that added that. That's why every president after that says that, "So help me God," because George Washington said that. So I don't know. I mean, guess maybe
Separation of church and state, Reed.
Yeah, separation of church and state. That's right.
The Bible has no place in our documents. Has no place in our country whatsoever, right?
Well, I don't know. Benjamin Franklin seemed to disagree after the Constitutional Convention, but maybe people just would ignore what Benjamin Franklin said. Although that's pretty popular nowadays, ignoring what the founding fathers said.
So here's the question then: what is the hope for return? What is the hope for restoration for our nation? Is there hope for it, given where we're at here in the cycle of history?
Well, I'm kind
Well, where do we sit in the cycle of history? The Tytler cycle that you've referred to in several.
I would say that we're like right on the cusp of dependency and bondage. I'd say we're smack dab right in the middle of dependency and bondage as of that. You know, kind of going back exactly where we came from right before the American Revolution. We were, you know, the colonists were dependent and held in bondage by Parliament and the King. You know, just like we're held in bondage by our Congress and by our President. You know,
who no longer care what their constituents actually wish for, but are more concerned with lining their own pockets and protecting their pet issues.
Forming a legacy, making their mark on history, right? But for people that are actually in it and actually study, I want thinkers. I want people that are absolutely thinking about this. I want people that are responsible scholars. You know, I want people that are not going to let the ways of the world dictate what they say or what they do not say. Now, I'm sorry, but you know, I think the biggest thing that we can do at this point, so you're basically asking, are we screwed right now?
Yeah.
Is that basically what you're saying? I don't think we're screwed like 100%, but I'd say it's probably like a 9 out of 10 shot. Then unless like we totally
about face.
Yeah, about face and turn our back towards all of the all the things that have happened in the past, you know, 50 to 100 years. I think unless we do that, then it's going to get real bad, and we'll continue to do so.
What was it that Adam said, that what was the quote about the only being to a virtuous?
Yeah, he said, our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the purposes of any other.
So I guess pretty much what people would have to do is to return to the root then.
Well, they don't certainly have to return the principles of natural law, you know, which is what our founders followed as well, and that is the fact that you have to get outside of yourself and acknowledge that there is a creator, that there are and have been principles of every country, of every empire that have followed these principles, and when they fail to follow those principles, then they decline and fall.
So basically there are consequences for our actions.
There are consequences there are definitely consequences of, and most certainly a lack of prosperity for people that reject that idea, for sure. I mean, unless you like want to ignore the past like 10 great civilizations.
So at this point, now, my question would be, if I was sitting out there, you know, with my subscribers, I hear this in class and people are like, so what do we do here? You know, like, let's own the fact that the chance is here, and I'm willing to hold out the chance that we will have a strong remnant and a root in this nation that will turn from what's happening and will embrace Scripture and will embrace living by the Bible, which is what our founders did. But what should we do in the meantime then?
Well, I'd most certainly prepare for, you know, things to get shaken up a little bit.
Let me ask you, what happened when the Senate in Rome, like when the Senate ceased to be representative of the people and was more a reflection of the personal interests of the guys?
Themselves?
Yeah. What happened? What did that look like for the average person when things collapsed?
Total disrespect of property. Property rights, total disrespecting of property rights.
So basically people, when the rule of law ceased to be in effect, they started taking what they wanted.
Yeah, government started taking from other people whatever they wanted. And then of course you had anarchy, and then you had infighting and one faction against the other, and it's basically just a big civil war of like multiple moving parts.
So how would you recommend that people, well first, like, let's be honest about the problem and do the work there. So the problem is that whenever the government ceases to be representative of the people, whenever the rule of law ceases to be respected, then individual property rights cease to be respected, personal violence goes up.
Yeah, whatever problems that were there before get amplified, generally speaking. You know, they generally get amplified.
You saw that when you were down in Katrina.
Yeah, I mean, you see that. I mean, the rule of law breaks down, people kind of revert back to their primeval condition. I mean, basically what it boils down to is associate with people that you know, acknowledge the fact that we've got to steel ourselves physically, mentally, and spiritually. Get with people that believe that. Get with people that, you know, see the writing on the wall, so to speak, and are preparing.
That's very appropriate.
Yeah, see the writing on the wall, and they're preparing. They've got their stuff locked down, dialed in. Yeah, and since our leaders have so much trouble understanding economics, it's a trade-off based on scarce resources, and in this case, the scarce resource is time.
So in the meantime, I want to encourage you guys, we were just talking about this, and we wanted to get some of these thoughts on camera here. We do want to encourage you guys to prepare. I think it is very safe to say, especially given the cycles of economics, the cycles of history, that the year coming up, very soon, starting within the next week, is going to be very pivotal.
Yeah.
And we encourage you guys, if you haven't stored up your food and gotten your water squared away, make sure and do that. If you don't have a way to protect yourself, because after all, when property rights cease to be valued and honored, people decide they want to come and take what's theirs, you need to be able to defend yourselves and your family. And having a gun with a whole bunch of ammunition stocked up, that's not going to cut it unless you know how to use it. And you're probably better to speak to that than I am.
No, you just shoot him in the eye. Works every time. If I can't solve my problem with 6 rounds of .357, it just wasn't my day.
Tell it to your wife and kids, pal.
It's okay. They've got it all figured out.
Yeah, but also, guys, it's important to be able to take care of your family, medically speaking, okay? You need to be able to, in the case of stuff getting really bad, you need to be able to take care of your people at home, okay? Getting your medical supplies, stored up and squared away, but hello, like if you've got that stuff and you don't know how to use it, you don't know how to problem solve, you don't know how to assess, your supplies are not going to help you, okay? This is me pleading with you right now. Come out and get some training, okay? Even if it's not with me. Like, get some training in how to assess people, how to take care of people, how to make sure that your folks are okay, These times that are coming up, guys, they're going to be very pivotal, very important. There's going to be a lot of shaking, I think, that's going to be happening very soon. There's a lot that's happening in our nation, specifically New York and Philadelphia, within the next few weeks. Be prepared and be vigilant, and let's be in prayer, okay? I don't have a problem telling people call to prayer, pray, like be in prayer, be listening, be watching, but we really need to return. I would submit we need to return to the Word and be grounded in that. It's the one thing for X number of thousand years, depending on which chronology you want to use. It's the one thing that is immutable and unchanging despite the nations coming and going.
You guys, hope you found this video helpful. If you did, subscribe to the channel. Like us on Facebook. Our links are down below. This is Reed Hendricks reminding you the lessons that we learn are written on the tombstones of others.